Hello, everybody. My name is Alice Michael. I'm 35 years old. I live on Treaty 8 territory, which is home to the Beaver, the Cree, the Dene, and the Métis people. And they are the original caretakers of this land, and I am just a guest. My people built a city here called Grande Prairie, and that is where I reside. And this is a story that I have for you from a friend of mine who lives in Calgary, whose name is Brooklynn, and she's just a really interesting young person who has a lot of creative stories coming out of her and is putting those out online and just sort of existing in the world and trying to get by and trying to survive just like the rest of us. And I thought Brooklyn's story was really good to share, and I just wanted to share that with you. So that is it. That is what we have. It is a conversation between the two of us. Brooklyn's audio is a little low compared to mine, so I'm going to see what I can do to get that properly adjusted. But I'm no tech savvy genius, so if somebody sees this that wanted to help me edit these and maybe set it up a little bit better and a little bit more efficiently, totally leave your feedback in the comments and or reach out to me. My email is makersmagic@gmail.com. You can find that through my links, and there's so many ways you could get a hold of me if you wanted to, but this episode isn't about me. This episode's about Brooklyn, and this is her story, and I hope you enjoy it. Here you go. Edit sounds. Brooklyn, can you start with your age, your gender identity, and your location, please?
Hi, I'm 18. I'm trans female, and my location is Calgary, Canada.
Right on. And did you grow up in Calgary?
Yep, been here all my life.
Oh yeah, yeah, cool.
Yep.
That's super cool. I haven't run into a lot of like just local born Calgary people who spent all their time there. That's interesting. How was
Mm,
it?
good. Can't complain.
Right on. Yeah. So like what was school like and stuff? What did you do?
A lot of it was just in earlier years, was just going through it. Just things were fairly simple because I was younger. Then things got a bit more complicated, and I eventually found that I had a favorite subject in English and language arts, writing, all that kind of stuff. And
Oh, right
so
on.
when it came to like high school and everything, I was just like excelling in those courses, but everything else, I just barely got by.
Yeah, it was just like trying to get through it.
Yeah, but English was just the fun one because that's what I was taking up at the time and still am.
I understand that and relate to that. Like it's so important, right? So, are you in college right now?
No, not a thing I'm going to be looking into.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're just doing like freelance writing sort of thing.
Pretty much, but I don't even like get paid for this. I just do it as a fun little hobby.
Yeah, it's something nice to do, right?
Yeah,
Cool. What was your earliest memory?
like just in general.
Yeah.
Ooh, oh goodness, you're making me think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and just like earliest you can remember, right? You don't have to be like this was definitely the first one if you've never really thought about it before.
yeah, well, it's good to think about, honestly.
Yeah, I
Let's
agree.
see. I think I just remember this one just because just it was a fun time. But way back when I was, I want to say 6 or 7, I remember being in school and I was talking to this friend. I don't remember anything with this friend prior for some reason, but I remember this moment when I was talking to them and I had this sweater with Sonic on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering, what's that character? I talked to them about it, and they introduced me to the series, and well, I've been with that series ever since.
Oh yeah, you've played all the Sonics.
Pretty much, almost all of them anyway, except for the ones on the really obscure older consoles.
That's super cool. I
Yeah.
played a lot of Sonic on Sega when it first came out, like
Oh
the
yeah.
Sega Genesis, and
Oh yeah.
then I never really played a lot after that. But I did like I beat Sonic 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the classics on my mom's phone when I was younger, and then I got the games on my computer, and then I went when I was at an old friend's. He had an original Sega Genesis with the original Sonic 1. I beat that, and wow, playing it on the original hardware is just an amazing experience, honestly.
Yeah, it's super cool, right? Yeah, it's super interesting. I didn't even think about that the first time you would have experienced Sonic, it would have already been on a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what in your experience of life, how was like growing up in the 2000s?
Ooh, well, that's something I think about a lot actually, so I can answer this one easier. Growing up, I didn't really get to appreciate growing up in that time as much as I wish I did, because with how things were when I was a kid, like you had like pay phones, phone booth things, you had like when it came to like getting like pizza delivered, you had to like look at a phone book and you couldn't just go on the internet and find like all these numbers easily. You had to, and they also they didn't have like Google Maps or anything, so it's just like they had to just memorize an address in their local area, and then there was a lot of like smaller like corner stores and that didn't have these like big old like LED displays. They just had like simple signs with some backlight on there, and that was something I remember in my neighborhood growing up too. And yeah, and then I grew up and realized just how much things have changed, and now it's just wow, they're experiencing things in a whole new way, and I'm still stuck on the past while still being in a weird era of being able to move into the future while still wishing the past had stayed how it was.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like my growing up was like we didn't even have TV in our house until I was like 10.
Oh yeah, that too. Like we didn't have like Netflix was a thing, but it wasn't like commonplace. You didn't have your Amazon Prime Video, your Disney Plus. That definitely didn't exist. So you had to go to any like store and buy or rent the movies from the library or somewhere, or even use like this thing called Redbox, where you just go to a box thing, buy like rent the movie, and then you got to bring it back a few days later. And yeah, it was like DVDs, and we also had like VHS tapes.
Yep.
And goodness, the DVDs were annoying. You had to like if there was like any fingerprints, because like, the movie would skip, you got to like take it out, wash it with a little cloth, dry it off completely, put it back in, and just hope it works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, whereas VHS was a lot sturdier.
yeah.
You can
You just
kind
had
of
to
toss
rewind
those
it every
around a
time.
little bit, not too much, but
Yeah,
yeah. Even if the top flap was like chipped or parts of it were broken, a lot of the time it would still play the movie because it only
yeah,
recorded in the one spot, like shone the light in the one spot, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And like for your schooling and your education and stuff, how was a lot of it laid out? Was it like a lot of textbooks and notebooks and a real focus on printing, or did you do a lot more computer-based stuff?
Well, that's interesting because when I was younger, we did a lot in these like notebooks and paper notebooks. And a lot of that was in there. And then I had duotangs with paper for different subjects, but the notebook was kind of just for any general notes. And then getting older, I moved to binders, which when I first discovered what those were, like everything is just all in one place and you can have it all organized. This is crazy. And then I moved into I got older, and the not do it thing, the binder was definitely still something I used a lot, but most of, if not all of my schoolwork getting into like grade 11 and 12 were just on the computer, just because it was just easier for me. I knew how to navigate those, and my typing would be a lot faster than just printing, so I could get things done more efficiently.
Yeah, it was the same for me in high school. Even I graduated in 2007, and by
Oh, yeah.
grade 11 and 12, like most things we did were typed on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mavis Beacon was the best. I got so good. My typing speed's pretty solid, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, mine too. And it's
Yeah.
funny because sometimes I can just be talking to someone and on my keyboard, this keyboard specifically, because I'm just so used to how it feels and the size of it, but I could just be just typing on it, look over at my friend, and still know exactly what I'm typing, and I'll look over and it's like, oh yeah, that's a whole nother sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that as
Yeah.
a party trick sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, hey, look what I'm doing. Da, 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 da,
Uh,
da.
uh,
Yeah. Although if I
yeah.
go on too long, then it starts to meld together. Like what I'm typing becomes what I'm speaking to them.
Oh yeah, I do that sometimes. Like sometimes
Yeah.
when I'm sometimes I'll be like taking notes for like friends, for example, from like making a character for the story I'm writing. I like to go off like I like to get friends to help make characters just to feel more connected with it. But anyway, I'd be like transcribing what they're saying, like they'll be telling me like their physical description in a paragraph blurb, and I'd end up like transcribing when they like use like joint words like or as like all the time, and it just transcribes them like I don't think I was supposed to write that word down.
I understand
Uh,
that. I do that too. Yeah.
yeah,
I speak those words a lot too. So then when I'm writing and I'm trying to sound like I'm writing in my voice, then all of a sudden it's full of like and as and but
yeah,
and yeah. I'm like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah.
An
My
editor would
writing and
hate this.
yeah, like my writing and speaking to me when I'm just reading when I'm writing, it's just like yeah, this is definitely sounding like me. But when it came to me like voicing this character that I play in the story I'm writing, the story series I'm doing, when it came to the character I play, I didn't have any of those like joint words or whatever, and so it just like it's like this is how I would sound if I wasn't stuttering all the time. Huh, that's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Just fun to
that's
see
fair.
that change when I'm reading off a script instead of just speaking in general.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a similar skill, but it's also an entirely different skill at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that when I do D&D and stuff, I play a lot of the characters that I make up, and that it definitely happens sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been transitioning?
Ooh, that I. Oh man, it's been a couple years. I want to say it's at least been a bit more than two. Because there was a phase where I I thought I was just non-binary for a little bit, and then I came out as trans again. Or again. I came out again, and I was trans. But I think that was about over 2 years ago, sometime around
Okay.
that ballpark.
Yeah, definitely. And how did your parents handle it?
Uh, my mom was just a little confused, mostly just curious about the topic, just everything. She didn't really need to understand why I'm doing this because she just knew that as long as I was happy with how I'm taking control of my life, then she'll support it. My grandma, on the other hand, was a bit more iffy, but because I live with her. But she's as long as she's been respecting the change in the name, then that's really all I need.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So when you came out, did you like how did that process go being a teenager and stuff? Because you would have been 16 then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see, 'cause with all that, like, just how did I like come to this, or just how did it all like happen when it came to like the change?
Well, like you said when you were first figuring it out that you came out as non-binary, right? Which I understand. My son did that. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
just wondering, like, did it just start as a social transition? Did your family hook you up with therapy? What was conversations with doctors like? Has that happened yet?
Oh yeah. I I mainly just told my friends about it first because I knew that they would have understood it a lot more and been able to, just respect it. And yeah, because I knew I would be safe telling them. And so I did the whole non-binary thing for a little bit, and then I kind of went through a phase where I was just testing out just any kind of pronouns just to see. And then I eventually found over like a month or so that I felt a bit more comfortable using female pronouns. And then I I came out again as trans, and then I told my friends about it. I went under a new name, and they, and then I eventually got used to it because it took time for me to get used to it. Because it's like, oh yeah, this is me now. I'm not that old name anymore. This is different. Whoa. And
Yeah,
then
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, everything kind of shifted slowly. Don't remember how exactly things happened, but things happened in a good way. And
Yeah.
then eventually, my family started, mainly my grandma, because again I live with her. She started buying me just like shirts in like a female size, which look a little bit different, and
Hmm.
also helped that my favorite color ended up being purple. So there's a lot more common to find, I think, purple
Mine
with
too.
female clothing. Hey, and I found those clothes really nice to wear. I don't like the lack of pockets. That's not very nice, but I wear hoodies all the time. And yeah, I ended up wearing those clothes a lot. I still find joggers incredibly comfortable, but you know, leggings or whatever are quite nice too. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
and then I ended up painting my nails a lot. I went and get them done at a place, but then I realized, oh wait, I can just do this myself. I have like a whole box of colors right here, and sometimes I'll just go out to the dollar store and get a new color that I like because I got I got this like black one. It's got some sparkles on it. This purple one's a bit more like shiny. And then I got these weird ones. There's this purple lavender colored one, but it's also lavender scented nail polish.
Oh, interesting. I would love that. I love lavender scent.
Yeah, and then there's this dark blue one, and it's a ocean breeze scent. And yeah, the lavender one definitely smells like lavender. It smells like nail polish, but you can definitely tell there's lavender, especially when it dries on the nails. You can really smell
Oh,
the lavender.
yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, but then I went through all those kind of changes and put these back on the shelf. Then I went
Yeah,
through.
just kind of like learning the social changes and kind of
Yeah,
it's like learning femininity, right? So before
yeah.
you came out, like how was it before then? Like what was your exposure to content? When did you like first start to think you could be trans?
Well, I think it kind of started when I was just because I was still growing up at the time, and I just didn't really feel like myself. I felt this kind of weird feeling a lot when I was younger too, where sometimes I just wouldn't feel like myself under the name I was legally called. And sometimes, like, obviously that was my name, so I was fine with it, but sometimes just I would just think like, is this really me? It's probably nothing. Then years go by and it's like, is this really me? This probably means something if it's happening years later. And then a couple years go by. Now we're at the point where I'm just thinking, are we sure that this is who we are? I don't know why I say we when I'm referring to myself, but I do this sometimes just to have it. Um,
I do it too.
yeah. Um, and then at some point, I'm just like, maybe let's try something different. And if we don't like it, we can go back to how things work because it doesn't hurt to try. And
Yeah.
then Brooklyn.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Da 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 da. Alice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I'm
And
gonna
that
introduce
was
myself
like
from now on.
sorry.
I said that's how I'm gonna introduce myself from now on. Brooklyn.
Yes. Yes. With the grandstanding too.
Got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and like even like I was figuring things out and I came out as trans. I knew I wanted to transition, so I started that whole process and it took 2 years before I was really comfortable enough to be like, actually, you know what? I'm pretty gender fluid and I'm like I relate to the masculine aspect of me and I like having that energy around, so I reincorporated it, right? And that's just part of that learning and growing and experimenting. And like now it really feels like all the aspects in me are super comfortable.
Oh yeah, yeah. I kind of get that too with like just sometime doing the whole like masculinity thing kind of sometimes, but I mainly just do that with my clothing choices. Like I said before, the sweaters and everything. And
Yeah.
I think my mom described it best when she said like she says like despite you being born as this, you're a girl now. So when I see you as a girl dressing in boy clothes, I just because she also does the same thing. So we just call each other tomboys, and that's literally the best way to describe it for me. Just it's like yeah, you're a girl now. You're just doing this. So man,
Right. Yeah. And I think we all have different aspects of like femininity and masculinity, and we need to incorporate them all in our lives so that like you can be a tomboy, you can be like a femboy, or yeah,
exactly.
like it doesn't really. That's the first time I noticed that both of them end with boy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's patriarchy. I'm not going to expand on that, but
Yep. Moving on. Yeah, yeah. No, because like how I've kind of seen things is just how I've always told myself is everyone's going to see you for something. So show them you. Show them who you want to be, what you like to do, how you like to present. And if they can't respect that, then they shouldn't be with you. But the ones that do respect it and do like having you around, have you around because you're you. So keep those ones around.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's up with your story? What are you working on?
Oh, oh man. Like right now, I recently got back into writing the stories sequel. I took a break from all those script projects, and right now I'm getting into the story sequel and introducing a new character. Because I took a break from the story for a long time. I then did all those things, and then I made a bunch of new characters, and then I guess that's what was the answer to my problem because I brought in a new character, and this is gonna allow me to bring in a new character arc and new interactions with the current cast from the first story, and then I can just take this, expand on it more, and make this next story and the final third one a way bigger project than the first story was, or the first draft at least.
That's awesome. So what's the first
Yeah.
story about? Like what's the synopsis that you would like write on the back of the book so that people would be interested in it?
All right. Yeah. So it's about this angel named Grace who fell from the afterworld. It's just heaven, but I call it the afterworld. Who fell from the afterworld because they had a sense of order that she couldn't follow. Now, without any memories of a past life, being stranded in this mortal realm on this city that she recognizes, she searches for answers, wielding this sword she found in a forest, while also needing to fight against the goddess of darkness, Artesia, from corrupting the earth that she calls home.
Super interesting. That sounds really neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You had sent me the links and I had meant to go through your story before I got on the podcast and I haven't, and now I'm like, now I really have to read that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
obviously, other people, it will be down below.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what do you do for work right now?
I don't currently have a job, but I did take this course to to serve alcoholic drinks, so I can be a bartender if I wanted to. And that was just kind of a career choice that kind of interested me because I have a leg disability, so I can't really do walking too much, but I can definitely stand still. So, being behind a counter and just serving drinks while talking to people seems like something I could easily do.
Definitely worth a
So,
try, right?
yeah. So I just need to get that experience in order to work in a place like that. So I'm just looking for jobs right now and hoping that can kick off.
Right on. Pro Serve is also valid in liquor stores too.
Yeah,
And
that's what
sometimes
most.
that can be really busy, but if you talk to them and they need like an extra staff, then sometimes they'll work with you to just be a cashier, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Super cool.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. Um, you had mentioned your mom and your grandma. Is your dad in the picture?
He passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm sure that must have been an experience for your family to have to go through and stuff.
Yeah, but things got tough. But I've been listening to music a lot because music is definitely something I use to express my or help me through my like emotions, feelings. That's a whole other topic we can get into. But yeah, I listened to a lot of the music that he liked, and I have his old leather jacket just hanging on my wall constantly. So, because my room isn't really big, but it's just always behind me on my wall, so I can just look at it and remember him.
I
And
love
yeah, things been all right now.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a couple of years now, so you guys are all moving on, right? Those sound like great ways to connect with your dad. That's really, really good. Like
Yeah,
to be working on that and connecting with it. And you seem really in touch with yourself and your emotions and who you are. And it's just like when I was 18, I couldn't have had as coherent of a conversation as you're having with me. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I yeah, I don't know. I guess the whole writing thing kind of started from the issues I was going through because things just were tough, and I wanted some way to just let that out, and I couldn't really do journaling because sometimes, like, if I were to write down my thoughts of being in a bad place and then be in a good mood and go back and read those thoughts, then I feel like that would just put me down. So I couldn't really like have direct like words of my current thoughts written down. So the story I use as a way to express that. So if I'm going through a not really good moment and I need some way to just de-stress, I would write that out in a scene for the story somehow. So if I'm just having a rough day and feeling stressed, I would work that into a concept for Grace or the other main character, Maven. And with Maven especially, I feel more connected to her since I voice her for the story projects I've done. But anyway, with the story, if I'm going through a moment of stress, I would write down a scene where they would be stressed because they're constantly going through these emotions when it comes to a battle to save your entire world from an entire army of demons. So I would occasionally have a scene where I would focus on those emotions. I would really just describe everything that they're going through, and it just made those parts easier to write because that's what I was going through at times. So when I would so just describing everything they were going through and being just really, I guess, descriptive, well, repeating the same words, is was just really easy because of the times I was going through. But things have gotten easier for me, but I do still like to write those kind of heavier scenes and just add a lot of tension and just have it build up to something. And it's just it's honestly kind of fun to do that. Put the reader, my friend especially, she described this. Put like the reader in the shoes of the character, since it's all like first person. So if I were to describe like a character's like heart racing, breathing, breath quickening, then the reader would feel that. And especially,
Absolutely.
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a lot here.
No, you're saying good stuff. You're not rambling. Throw that out.
Yeah, yeah. And with the audio projects that I did, with the one I did for Maven, this one's been my favorite since. But with that project, the basic synopsis of that one is that she's looking for her brother. That's a whole plot point. And she finds this abandoned laboratory that was destroyed by Grace being controlled by one of these demons. And she finds the aftermath of it and goes through it, finds this computer with information that she needs. And then as she's about to leave, she hears one of the demon's portals opening, and because she's a runaway demon, she cannot be found, otherwise she's going to be brought back and probably executed. She doesn't want to take that risk. So she can't be found, so she's on the run. She can't be spotted at all, no matter how hard she can fight. And she hears one of the portals opening and hears demons screeching, and that's when she goes into a panic attack. And the way I did it was I had to act that out, but I also cut all the dramatic music in the background. It all cut completely. There's the sound of a beating heart, and I just did that really well. It's just really heavy, and I really like how that turned out.
Yeah, it's just her. And when you're in a panic attack, that's what that state is like.
Yeah, and there's other characters that she's with, because that computer thing that helped her gather information. It's, I guess, sentient. It knows it's a computer. It knows it has data. Yeah, and she finds this watch thing that has the same computer and the same data and everything. So she brings that with her, and it becomes a companion. And she's bonded with this soul because the whole reason Maven's a runaway is because she was a assassin. She would go up to the mortal realm and just kill, kind of like the Grim Reaper in a way, I guess. She
Hmm.
called herself a Reaper anyway. And she found this soul down in hell, but it looked scared and frightened, and she figured something like scared shouldn't be in a place like this, because if it did belong here, it would have felt right at home, but it didn't. So she offered to take it with her because this thing was probably going to be just executed later on. So she took it with her, bonded its soul with hers, so it would constantly have protection. And that's why she had to make her run away, because she betrayed the trust of Artesia. So she had to run away, and those two are talking in that scene, and I have their voices kind of muffled because that's not the main focus, but you can definitely hear them in the background. And
Hmm.
again, that whole thing is just amazing. I
It was one
really
of
like how
those
that
like
turned out.
chef's kiss moments as a creator.
Yeah, yeah,
I
like
love those. Yeah.
yeah, like I was listening back to my recording of it, the solo recording, and I'm like, okay, this is a pretty good performance. I think I might have overdone it a bit with the whole thing, but then I actually put it all together with the music cutting out and everything. Actually, I think I had the music in the background at first with all the characters talking. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. And then I stopped, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work, is it? This isn't gonna work, is it? I go to find the sound effect. This isn't gonna work, is it? I put the heartbeat in, and then everywhere the music cuts, and I'm like, this worked. Oh goodness, it worked. This is
Oh,
amazing.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You
Oh
get
yeah.
that boom, 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 and that's
Oh
such
yeah.
a pivotal thing when you're having an anxiety attack. Is that like that pounding drowns everything out, and
Yeah.
like all you have is that and your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, and like one of the I don't want to say best things because it sounds kind of, but one of the, I guess, good things about having those kind of moments myself is that I'm able to write those and act those out in a fairly good way, especially the acting bit.
Yeah. Have you ever had a panic attack before?
Yes, I have a few times, and it's kind of felt like that. I just zoned out of everything else, but that wasn't really a choice because I am very good at just zoning everything out and just focusing on one thing. But this just had everything just zone out.
Yeah.
I only heard my very panicked breathing. I could just kind of feel my heart beating because I would just be laying down most times. And then sometime after a while, I don't know, it would just kind of stop and everything would just slowly come back in. And that would usually be from either me finding something like really quickly finding something to help calm myself down, or just eventually just letting it pass. But for that scene, how it worked out was Maven was just constantly doubting that she's not going to find her brother. What if he's dead? Because he ran off because he didn't want to be serving under Artesia, which fair enough. But she was worried that he was killed and she's not going to find him. And Athena is what I call the computer. Athena, the computer just basically describes like you're having a panic attack. Your heart rate's increasing rapidly, and the little soul thing that Maven's with, I call Solara, just kind of says like that's not really helping right now. And Athena plays the this ocean sound that she recorded, and that's what eventually does get Maven back into reality, and she calms down. And something else that she does is falsely she apologizes for that whole thing, but they both tell her there's no need. I would rather you show emotion around us than just bottle everything up until you break. And that's exactly what Solar said.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just being able to just write my emotions like that has been really nice because I can act those out and not have it feel like it's an exact just replica of my thoughts or whatever like a journal would be, but it's just a similar emotion to how I've been. And with these characters they can also grow and change and feel better, and then I can also feel better about them feeling this way, even though I'm the one that's writing them and I'm also the one that's making their lives kind of miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to work through those feelings and work through those things without it being a direct interpretation of your life, right? Like having it written down in a journal. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of like reflective journaling, and the amount of times that I'll read something that I wrote in the past and I go, "Wow," and it's just like I rip it right out of the book,
Yeah, yeah,
or like
that's
I'll burn it or something because like it's, and like that's very cathartic to me and that's very a part of the process. But like I think how you're doing it is just as cathartic and just as a part of the process, right? It's all in how we find a way to express.
yeah. And that's another thing with the story. How those two characters, Maven and Grace, because they're both main characters. Maven's getting her own series later on, but she's introduced in this one, with Grace, but she's a side character. Um, Maven and Grace both express their thoughts differently. I actually have a thing I'm writing where it's just going to be a teaser leading to a bigger project, but they're both. It takes perspective of them both going into their rooms, and Grace is writing poetry because that's how she expresses her. And I've actually done a couple of those videos, which I should actually post to YouTube. But I've done a couple of those videos of Grace's poetry, voice acted by her voice actress. And Grace was writing poetry, and Maven is journaling. But Maven's journaling style is very poetic and just it's not just literal of her thoughts. It's just like comparing these thoughts to other things, like when she would be talking about her old lover, which is a whole other a lot more lore things I would need to explain. But when she would be talking about her old lover, she would just talk about how he's changed over time and he's not the same as he always was, and she would compare those feelings to a ghost, and she would compare him to a rose, something that she still finds beauty in for whatever reason, but still has its thorns and something that she can't fully love anymore. And just having them both express these things differently. And the Maven thing was kind of funny because she, in the story, she doesn't like her journaling being called poetry because it's basically poetry in a freeform way, but she doesn't think it's fancy enough to be called that. She doesn't think it's good enough. She doubts herself a lot.
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah.
people that say rap's not poetry.
Yeah, like, yeah, to me, it is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If it holds form, right? It doesn't have to be a set of rules. It doesn't have to be a set form. You don't have to be doing Shakespeare or to be writing something similar.
Exactly.
Yeah. I actually kind of love this as an end for the podcast. Do you feel like there's more that you want to share?
Um, no, I think I'm all good.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Brooklyn. I really appreciated it. And I really appreciated our conversation. You sound like a super cool person. And hopefully one day we actually get to meet.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I did have one more question for you. Are you medically transitioning or going to?
I'm going to, yes, eventually, I
Right
think.
on. Well,
Yeah.
all the best in your journey and in your life. And hopefully, at some point, we can have you back on and we can get an update on your story. And if anything changes in your life, that would be super cool to hear about.
All right.
Moving, this is a transition. We're transitioning through the transition into something else now. Hey, that was Alice. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you just enjoyed hearing about someone's life. If you like this, please leave a like, please leave a comment, please just engage down below, and let me know what you think, because I have more of these coming, and I have more of this planned, and I'm super stoked about it. And we're almost at that like 10 episode mark, which is crazy. Last time I did a podcast, it was only 3 episodes, and that was a lot of fun, and this is a lot of fun too, and I'm super glad I'm doing it. Bye! Have a great day! Peace, love, and unicorns. Allie out.